Hey Facebook, welcome along to another Media Theology live broadcast. I wanted to carry on with the theme that I spoke a little bit about last night around storytelling and and preaching and the power of storytelling and things connected to preaching and the level of hope and things that come through that. One of the books I've been reading recently is by one of the guys I really enjoy reading and can recommend for you to read if you want to think deeply about a range of different things. Guy named Jacques Ellul, Ellul. So he was a French writer. Both wrote sort of philosophically in the technical space. So he's got some well-known books around the technological society and the impact that it has. A really good book called Propaganda that if you're doing anything around communication, you should check out. But the latest one I've picked up and been reading, it's going to be backwards, but it's called Hope in a Time of Abandonment. I've really been enjoying it. I'm not all the way through it, but one of the things that I come across a few days back that I just thought I'd share because it totally relates. So he's writing here about how because of the scientific way that we have approached and explained things in the world, we're left with an age of suspicion is what he calls it, or a school of suspicion, and so that's where we end up. And so he sort of says, we've learned no longer to place our confidence in anything, no longer to have faith in anyone, don't believe a person's word, not a sentiment, don't accept the lasting quality of a relationship, don't believe that it could be authentic or truly representative of a person. We've learned that every good feeling merely expresses some self-satisfaction or some hypocrisy, and that all virtue is a lie, that all morality is false, that all devotion is vain or a sham, that all speech hides the truth. We've learned that only the lie is true, that only the murder of one's father is consistent with one's being, that incest with one's mother is the greatest desire. So he'd been talking about Freud a little bit earlier before this. So that's where that connects in. That we're never disinterested, that we are incurably insane for money, whether we have it or not, and for social class and for our childhood. So he's sort of saying we live in this world of suspicion where we're so suspicious of things we don't really know what we can actually grip and hold on to as real and true and worth holding on to anymore. And as he goes on, he says this, he says, the tragedy is that these difficult concepts, so this kind of sense of not really being sure of anything more, these profound analyses and rigorous scientific observations have crossed over into the public domain. So this is kind of stuff that's not just left in the academy anymore. It's stuff that has filtered over into the public, where these things kind of exist now. They're no longer in and of themselves. There's no longer any evil in man. It's just that's who man is. We can no longer speak of evil in this connection. It's not a matter of ethics. It's just a matter of reality. We're just like this. This is who we are. But what he says is because it's in the public domain, this kind of sense of hopelessness, this kind of sense of, like just things being as they are, he's men of letters and moving picture producers. So those who write and create moving pictures carry a heavy responsibility because the average man has picked up a monstrous and bewildering view of himself, of other people, and of his society. It's all passed into the public domain and, distorted by oversimplifications, by the failure to distinguish between morality and science, and by the premature conclusions which that implies. So it's really interesting that part of his solution to this issue is actually to kind of call on the storytellers to say, hey, there's a role for storytellers to play, for writers, for producers of film and moving pictures. There's a role that we need to play to actually engage with a different picture and version of who we are as people, who society. what society is and how society exists, why society exists, and the reasons for society, and how it flows and ebbs and those kind of things. So it's really interesting to sort of come across that, I think, for me anyway, as I was reading about this, that one of the solutions that already is being put forward, like I said, I'm not all the way through this book yet, but already there's this hint to saying, hey, the storytellers of our day really need to bear responsibility for the stories that they tell. And particularly then for us as Christian storytellers, for those of us who are Christians in this media space, to be thinking about what representations our stories give of humanity, of men and women and family and relationship, of God, of creation, of society, of the mix of all of those things. Is it just a scientific, that's what's there, we can't really make any moral or ethical judgments on it, or is there something deeper there that we can try and bring to the front and allow and enable people to see? So that's what I wanted to share tonight. Thanks for you guys that have jumped on live. Great to have you stop in. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like normal, tag someone that you know. Tag someone that's in the storytelling space. You know, there's so many of us that are storytellers. Like I said last night, I think preachers are storytellers, those who do songwriting are storytellers, those who write books, those who create films, those who, I mean, you know, we're all storytellers in a way. We all tell our own story in particular ways. And hey, Lachlan, thanks for the thumbs up, man. Hope you're having a good night. Look forward to brekkie tomorrow. So, yeah, we're all storytellers. So what kind of story of the world are we telling? Even as well. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for another Media Theology. And don't forget, if you want me to touch on something, leave a comment below, and I'm more than happy to throw my 2 cents on that as well. So have a great evening, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Oh, the awkward moment before he can hit the finish button. Woo!